Good evening and welcome to TV 16 News. I'm Marissa Shepard.
And I'm Sarah Shaban. You're watching Live at 5.
Coming up, a leaking tractor trailer closes Interstate 30.
And 2 Harding University students join the military.
We'll have all that and more, but first, here's Stephen Goodale with a look at weather.
Again, another nice day. High temperatures into the upper 60s. Some places even saw 70 after a start this morning in the upper 30s. Could this pattern continue, and will it be a wet one into the start of the weekend into next week? I'll have details in my weather forecast. Stay tuned. Your news starts right now.
A leaking tractor trailer temporarily closed down Interstate 30 today. After further investigation by the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, the interstate was reopened. However, exit 106, where the truck came to a stop, is still closed just southwest of the Little Rock area. The reason the interstate was shut down is due to the hazardous chemicals the truck was carrying. Officials say the pressure inside the truck was rising and was threatening area businesses. ADEC, with the help of representatives from DuPont, are trying to relieve the pressure in that truck. For safety, businesses in the area have been evacuated, and the truck has been relocated to Benton where it can be contained.
The Arkansas House Committee rejects a new bill proposal. Representative John Woods proposed a bill to require voters to show a photo ID at voter polls. If the voter did not show identification, they would be asked to sign a form attesting to their identity. Bill presenter Dan Greenberg says the legislation would aid prosecutors in investigating and prosecuting voter fraud. Woods says he believes there is a low turnout at the polls because voters are skeptical about the integrity of the process. They say they plan to present the legislation to the committee again.
The White County Sheriff's Department is missing nearly $60,000. An audit by the State Legislative Joint Auditing Committee discovered that over the last 2 years, a former sheriff's secretary had embezzled that amount. The funds embezzled came out of money that had been paid at fines and bonds. Rita Glaze, the secretary to former Sheriff Pat Garrett, was the bookkeeping manager of the office and was in charge of all accounts. White County authorities say they plan to charge Glaze with felony theft of property, which carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison and $15,000 in fines. If convicted, Glaze would also be responsible for repaying the stolen funds.
Since December 9, 2006, over 230 union workers have been on strike at the Kohler plant in Searcy. TV 16's Jonathan Hicks spoke with union spokesman Paul Barker on how the strike is impacting their lives.
For the last 3 months, seeing feet walk back and forth in front of the Kohler plant has become an ordinary sight. I had a chance to talk with the spokesman for the union, Paul Barker, on how this is affecting their lives.
You know, it takes a toll on all of us. You know, it's something, you know, we're used to getting up and going to work every day, and then, you know, you get done, you go home. I mean, that's a life that we know, but it come to the point to where we had to stand up for what's right, you know, and by being a citizen of this great country that we live in, you know, that's our right to be able to stand up for ourselves and say when something's right, when something is wrong. You know, and we want to say also, we thank the community. We thank all the people that drive by and honk and show us support. We've had people stop by and bring us food, bring pizzas, hamburgers. They've donated money to help us buy supplies and different things, and we are so appreciative of that. It really makes your heart feel good to know that this community, you know, people back you and they support you. And a lot of them, when they find out what the issues are, they understand it more. Because most of the time when anybody sees somebody's on strike, it's all about dollars an hour. It's all about money. They're greedy, greedy, greedy. And this time it's not about greed. It's about security. I want to be secure. You know, anybody wants to wake up in the morning and be secure when they get out of their bed. They want to have a question in their mind when they get up and go to work in the morning. You know, am I going to have a job when I go clock in? They want to know that I'm going to have a job when I clock in. I'm going to have a job when I go home, and I get up tomorrow, and I can come back again.
Reporting for TV 16 News, I'm Jonathan Hicks.
A national volunteer program will be introduced to fathers of Bald Knob Public School students tonight. The program is called Watchdogs, and the acronym DOGS stands for Dads of Great Students. The program originated in Jonesboro, Arkansas after the school shootings that occurred in March of 1998. One student's father saw the need for more male presence in the school system. Dads volunteer at the school one day a year, performing many functions, including bus duty, reading stories to children, and eating lunch with students. Officials say the program is successful in several school districts.
The Searcy Water Agency is under construction and officials say should be completed by the end of July. The agency began construction in July of last year. Water officials say upgrades include 2 circular purifying tanks, which are as big as one-third of a football field in size, and a pump station. The agency will add the station due to an accident with the pump last summer.
Scholarship amounts are on the rise at Harding University. Incoming freshmen can now earn up to twice as much in their financial aid for their standardized test scores. Students with an SAT score of 1420 or higher used to get a $20,000 scholarship. They will now receive $40,000. That same amount is given for an ACT score of 33 or higher. Director of Admissions Glenn Dillard says scholarship increases are common every few years, but these are larger than normal. The scholarship changes will only apply to incoming freshmen and not current students.
2 Harding University students are willing to sacrifice their lives in protecting our nation. Recently, Jordan Whetstone and Alex Alt made the decision to put their college careers on hold and serve in our country's military. Harding students put together a farewell party in honor of Alex and Jordan at the Underground Coffee House. TV16 has more on that story.
I just want to say thanks to all my friends here at Harding and all my friends back home, my family. They've all been very supportive of my decision to drop out of Harding this semester and go to boot camp and hopefully go to Iraq. I volunteered to do this, and I did that because I felt like this is what God wants me to do, and so I just want to say thanks. Thanks for the party that Kendall and Jesse and Julie Akins they have put on for me and Jordan at the Underground. That was really nice.
Thank everyone for the support they've given me also. I'm going to Iraq for, the government called me up, and I'm going there to protect the man for us, the right and left of me. It's my job, but it's also, I'm willing to do it for freedom.
Jordan and Alex say they expected to be deployed to Iraq sometime next fall. They plan on re-enrolling at Harding in the fall of 2008.
If you're a fan of swing, shuffle, and Latin tunes, then tonight is your night. The Harding University Jazz Band is performing tonight at 7 in the Reynolds Recital Hall. The Jazz Band has been a part of the Harding community for more than 40 years and is featured in the university's annual Spring Sing for more than 30 years. Everyone is invited to attend the concert, and admission is free.
Spring break begins tomorrow afternoon for Harding University students. However, not all students will go home. More than 300 students and faculty members will travel to 12 states and 7 countries next week to participate in service and outreach efforts. The majority of the teams are student-led and give those students an opportunity to gain leadership experience. Director of Harding University's Spring Break Missions, Nate Copeland, says he wants students to see they can do mission work anywhere and under any job title.
The American Studies Institute will host the Ambassador of the Republic of Zambia as part of the Distinguished Lecture Series. Dr. Inonge Bikusita Lewanika is an educator by profession and holds a doctorate in early childhood and primary education from New York University. The Associate Executive Director of the ASI, Dr. Bob Reilly, has more on what she will be speaking about.
She asked us what our greatest interest was the other day, and we told her in light of a campus in Zambia, and of course our campus plays into medical missions, our nursing program, our physician's assistant, as well as our new pharmacy program, that we would have a lot of students there and people that would be interested in what Zambia was like, what the culture was like, and to give us some background of the history of Zambia, the culture, the role of women in Zambia, and how Harding University would interface with that.
The lecture is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. March 20th in the Administration Auditorium.
Bisons for Christ Stampede through Searcy. Bisons for Christ is an afternoon of service replacing Harding University's day of service. The service event will focus not only on students serving the community, but also on creating more long-lasting relationships between Harding students and Searcy residents. Service projects will range from raking leaves to sports camps. Harding faculty and staff, as well as home Bible studies, are also encouraged to help out. Bisons for Christ will kick off April 18th.
Looks like Rapunzel is getting a run for her money. Harding University Student Association hosted a hair raiser where 76 female students donated their hair to the Locks of Love Foundation in Florida. The amount of hair donated totaled up to 74 feet. Participants also included those who didn't donate hair. Tickets were sold to those on and off campus who were entertained by live music as they watched the girls' haircuts given by local hairdressers. The total amount of money raised is still being calculated.
Coming up on Live at 5, 9 people died after a rocket attack in Somalia.
And a medical lab in Georgia is working on an AIDS vaccine. Stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.
Spiritually, intellectually, academically, this is truly a special place. There are more National Merit Scholars here than in any other private college in the state. These students are remarkable. Learning, growing. They're all so well-rounded. We're so proud of them. When they leave, they'll be ready. They will be prepared.
You and I haven't shaken hands yet. We've never chatted at a party. Our kids play different sports.
But I can honestly say, without ever having met you,
I'll help save your life.
When you help the American Red Cross, you help America.
At least 9 people were killed in a rocket attack in Somalia today. Officials say the rocket-propelled grenade was aimed at an armored vehicle carrying African Union peacekeepers, but missed its mark and hit a restaurant instead. Islamic extremists driven out of the city in December by the interim government and Ethiopian forces have vowed to fight the peacekeepers. The extremists are believed to be behind the nearly daily attacks in the city.
There's been an Israeli raid into the Palestinian territories. It's the kind of action that Palestinians deem proactive, but one that Israelis say is necessary. Atika Schubert has a look on what's going on.
An early morning raid by Israeli forces into the town of Ramallah, the seat of Palestinian Authority. Israeli forces entered a Palestinian military compound that it says was used as a terrorist hideout, confiscating weapons and explosives. It is the latest in a series of Israeli incursions into the West Bank. Last week, Israeli forces laid siege to the West Bank of Nablus for search of terror suspects. In at least one incident, Israeli forces appeared to force a Palestinian civilian to lead its troops at gunpoint, a practice banned by the Israeli Supreme Court. Human rights groups say it makes civilians into human shields for military troops. Israeli army says it is investigating the incident. This just days before Israel's Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is due to meet again with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in an effort to revive stalled peace talks. But this is not an atmosphere conducive to peace. In Jerusalem today, police used tear gas to disperse a demonstration, arresting a Palestinian Islamic leader, Sheikh Ra'ad Salah, for inciting violence. In the West Bank, hundreds more women gathered in protest at the Huwara checkpoint.
This protest is against not only the checkpoint, but also incursions into the nearby city of Nablus.
This medical worker says the Israeli incursions are only sowing mistrust among Palestinians.
We do not trust Olmert because what he did a few days ago in Nablus, it is like a way to have more trust from his people at our benefit, from our blood.
Tempers flared amid much pushing, shoving, and shouted threats, but the demonstration ended without any injuries. Few here have any hopes for peace talks. Instead, Palestinians and Israelis alike are asking what will be accomplished in yet another round of talks. Atika Schubert, CNN, Nablus.
Some call Britain's House of Lords a holdover from the past, with lords enjoying their office because they were born into it or appointed by the government. Now centuries of tradition could end. The House of Commons approved a non-binding resolution Wednesday requiring that most, if not all, lords be elected, and that the remaining hereditary peers be removed. The next step is up to Prime Minister Tony Blair's government. He's already forced out peers whose lordships were based on land rights. The move comes as police investigate whether anyone paid for appointments to the upper chamber.
Members of the International Atomic Energy Agency will cut technical aid to Iran in efforts to uphold UN sanctions. The decision came during a meeting in Austria today. It's part of an effort to keep Iran from developing nuclear capabilities. In December, the UN Security Council passed a resolution which banned transfers of technology or expertise to Iran that might be applied to producing nuclear fuel. Iran's ambassador to the IAEA says the aid cuts will not have an effect on its enrichment program.
Time now for a check of today's top news stories. Here's Nanette Sosa.
House Democrats, with Speaker Nancy Pelosi leading the way, plan to announce legislation today mandating the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq by the fall of 2008. Under the proposal, troops could come home even earlier if Iraqi leaders fail to meet security and other important goals. The astronaut charged with attempting to kidnap a romantic rival will no longer be working for NASA. The space agency says Lisa Nowak's termination becomes effective today. Nowak remains an active-duty naval officer. A Georgia truck driver is a lucky winner of the Mega Millions $370 million lottery jackpot. 52-year-old Ed Neighbors says he plans to buy property for himself and for his daughter with his winnings. The holder of a second winning ticket purchased in New Jersey has not come forward yet. For headlines, I'm Nanette Sosa.
A fire at a three-story home in New York City claims 9 lives, 8 of them children, according to firefighters. A fire department spokesman says the cause of the fire, which started about 10 Wednesday night, has not been determined. There were 10 others injured. 4 firefighters and 1 other emergency worker were hospitalized with minor injuries. Firefighters called this one of the deadliest fires in recent memory. They got the blaze under control by 1 a.m. this morning.
Now that Scooter Libby has been convicted of lying and obstructing justice in the CIA leak case, an interesting question is coming to light. Will President Bush pardon him? Tom Foreman takes a look.
With the Vice President's former confidant, Scooter Libby, awaiting sentencing, the White House is being pushed around like a Monopoly piece on the question of whether Libby will get out of jail free under a presidential pardon. The president says he respects the court, is sad about the conviction, but
there's more legal procedures to take place, and at this time it's inappropriate for me or the administration to be issuing comments about this serious matter.
George Washington pardoned the men who led the Whiskey Rebellion, and ever since, presidents have pardoned or commuted the sentences of dozens of people, often because they believe the prosecution was political. Democrats said that about Bill Clinton's friend Susan McDougal, who went to jail over Whitewater.
I was pardoned on the last day of Bill Clinton's presidency.
But some Democrats think Libby is just the fall guy for dirty dealings at the White House and is a potential witness against the vice president himself in the quest to find out who exposed Valerie Plame as a CIA agent.
Scooter Libby didn't do this all by himself. The best way that the president has to shut Scooter Libby up before sentencing is to pardon him.
George Bush, as a governor and president, has granted pardons less often than others have. But this is not just about the president anymore. Sure, some Republicans see Libby as a political martyr who deserves saving even as he works on his appeal. But others are painfully aware that ethics scandals have rocked their party.
The dilemma for the president is he's known for loyalty, his friends say that's his best quality, and yet you have the presidential candidates in the Republican Party saying, hey, it's not just about you now. We have an election in 2008. We can't afford to have the Republican brand stained with something that the American people feel was not fair.
In bitterly partisan Washington, many complain manners have all but vanished. But the hottest game in town now is guessing what the White House will do if Scooter Libby says, "Pardon me." Tom Foreman, CNN, Washington.
two California women were hospitalized in Moscow after possibly being poisoned are back in the U.S. Dr. Marina Kovalevsky and her 26-year-old daughter Yana arrived in Los Angeles Wednesday afternoon. A U.S. Embassy spokesman in Moscow says Russian officials are investigating how and when the women could have come in contact with thallium, a potentially fatal chemical.
It may not be a cure, but one medical lab in Georgia is working on a vaccine that could potentially prevent the AIDS virus. Keith Whitney has more.
The GeoVax lab at Emory is smaller than many garages, and yet this may be where the battle to end the reign of one of the world's biggest killers could be won, with a vaccine to prevent AIDS.
We're getting results back that are indicating we're getting very strong immune responses from these individuals, these people who received our vaccine.
The vaccine uses a decoy virus with some of the genetic material of the AIDS virus, but not enough for anyone to ever get the disease itself from the shot.
It exposes your immune system to a pathogen like a virus or a bacteria before you've seen it, so that you set up memory cells, and then these memory cells mobilize should you get the actual infection.
The test trials have been so successful that the vaccine is now more than a year ahead of schedule.
Actually, another 2 trials that are starting later on this year using different combinations of our vaccine and different administration programs. And following that, assuming everything goes reasonably well, we'll be starting a phase 2 trial towards the end of the year.
The vaccine works using a 1-2 pharmaceutical punch, first to prime the body, then to kill the virus.
It raises both antibody that can block the virus, and it raises white blood cells that are called T cells that can kill virus-infected cells. So it really has 2 methods of controlling an HIV/AIDS infection when it enters the body.
Let's take a look at your weather headlines for this Thursday. Pleasant spring-like temperatures to remain, but the only damper is that we could have a wet start to the weekend and to next week. I'll have details in my weather forecast coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Well, after all, it's just a bank. It just happens to have a branch on practically every corner. Over 1,600 ATMs, 24/7 access to customer service by phone, and online banking so you can pay your bills from anywhere, anytime. Hey, wait a minute. That's not just a bank. That's Regions Bank. And that's what gives 5 million customers everyday confidence.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Brittany from the Reynolds Center at Harding University. The time is now 3:06, and here's Jessica Simpson, Take My Breath Away.
KVHU, the voice of Harding University at 95.3.
Will the owner of a spare tire please report to the press box to retrieve your appendage? They must have lost this parking further from the stadium and walking in.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's go ahead and take a look at the surface map right now. An area of a cold front has been moving south. Now, the thing about this cold front is it's starting to move back to the north, playing with the temperatures as it does. Area of high pressure helping it move off to the north. That area of cold weather could move off to the east as early as this evening, setting up for an area of low pressure to develop, causing our next chance for rain. Taking a look at regional satellite now, all the clouds loaded to the west. We are very cloudless and dry, very warm in fact. Taking a look at national temperatures, 68 in Little Rock, 76 now in Shreveport, 71 in New Orleans. Taking a look at temperatures statewide, 70 in Fayetteville, 73 in Hot Springs and Fort Smith, 68 in Little Rock, 67 now in Memphis, and 60 in Jonesboro. Here in Searcy, we're at 63 degrees with east-southeast winds at 5 miles per hour under mostly sunny skies. For tonight, 43 degrees the low temperature with light winds, clear and cool. Then waking up tomorrow Temperatures in the low to mid 70s with south-southwest wind from 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy and a 20% chance for showers and thunderstorms. Over the next 5 days, look to be wet sometime during the day with temperatures ranging from the low 70s to the upper 50s. Derek and Marissa?
Thanks, Stephen. Coming up in sports, Matt Hall's award repertoire is getting larger, and a Harding alum places high up in the Little Rock Marathon.
And after a weekend wedding, a couple shares one odd honeymoon. You don't want to miss this.
There's a place where a total stranger will give their blood to save your life. There's a place where someone you never knew will save your child from drowning. A place where people will give you food and shelter after a flood. There's a place where, when you need it most, someone will reach out their hand, put it across your shoulder and say, "Everything's going to be okay." That place is called America, where we look out for each other. And it's up to us to keep it that way. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America.
Harding's Lady Bison tennis team suffered only its second loss of the season Tuesday, 5-2 to the University of Arkansas Little Rock. The Lady Bisons were coming off wins in their previous 5 matches. The last 3 were shutouts. The loss drops Harding's record to 10-2 this season, while moving UALR to 9-5. Karina Gomes remained perfect on the season at 11-0 in singles matches. The 2 wins for the Lady Bisons came at number 1 and number 2 singles, with Gomes picking up the victory, as well as Alicia Williams. Harding is back in action right now in Russellville against GSC opponent Arkansas Tech. The match started at 2 o'clock. Tomorrow afternoon, Harding plays Delta State at home at 1 o'clock at the Harding tennis courts. On the other side of the net, the Harding men's tennis team had its 4-match winning streak snapped Tuesday with a 7-0 loss at UALR. The Bisons fell to 8-2 with the loss. Harding is off until March 21st when the Bisons host Lemoyne-Owen. Former Harding track and cross-country star Pershimik Brabowski won the 5th annual Little Rock Marathon Sunday. The 26-year-old native of Poland finished in just under 2.5 hours, nearly 2 minutes ahead of the second-place runner. Bobrowski was a 5-time All-America honoree in track at Harding. He was the 2006 NCAA Division II national champion in the outdoor 1,500 meters. The race was only Bobrowski's second marathon. He placed 10th in the St. Jude Marathon in Memphis in December. Bobrowski now serves as a graduate assistant for the Harding track teams under head coach Steve Guyman. And finally, Harding forward Matt Hall received his second Daktronics First Team All-South Region Award Tuesday. Hall also earned All-Region honors in 2005. Hall, a junior from DeQueen, Arkansas, led Harding in scoring with 22 points per game and rebounding with about 7 rebounds per game. He became the first Bison since '91 to score more than 600 points in a season. Hall also ranked 6th in career scoring at Harding. Matt is also the first Harding player to earn multiple first-team All-Region honors. In 2005, Matt was the South Region Player of the Year. Matt Hall was joined on the first team by 2007 Player of the Year Marcus Kennedy from Montevallo, his teammate Greg Brown, Johnny Reibel of Rollins, and Jason Smith of Alabama Huntsville. That's Sarah with a look at what's going on in Las Vegas.
Thank you, Derek. It definitely wasn't the picture-perfect honeymoon after Salt Lake City police say they arrested a groom accused of attempting to run over his new wife in his car. After a quickie wedding in Vegas, the couple was still honeymooning when he ran her over. Police received an emergency call Monday after reports of a couple fighting in a car while they drove down the street. 29-year-old Katie Martindale apparently got out of the car and started to walk away. Police say 33-year-old James Olwine drove off the road and struck her with his car. Martindale did not suffer serious injuries, but officials say may have a broken leg. County officials charged Olwine with aggravated assault with a vehicle. Both had jail records, and the police say the two are well known in the sheriff's office.
That's one very interesting story, and hope everything works out for
Glad
him.
my honeymoon didn't go that way.
That would have been a disaster.
Absolutely. Well, coming up in sports tomorrow, the Bisons are going to be taking on the University of the Ozarks at 5 o'clock here at home. So if you're not doing anything tomorrow night, still in town before spring break, go ahead and go out and support your Bisons.
Okay. That's all the news we have for you tonight on Live at 5. Tune in again next week on Monday for more of your local news, weather, and sports.
From all of us here at TV 16, have a safe and restful spring break.